Welcome to Space Matrix. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more updates. When Donald Trump entered the White House, he upended decades of American foreign policy, replacing alliance building and global leadership with a blunt, transactional, America-first approach. He questioned the value of NATO, withdrew from major international agreements, and launched trade wars, leaving allies and adversaries alike uncertain. This disruption forced major powers, India, Russia, and China, to reconsider their relationships with the US and with each other. The Trump presidency became a global stress test, revealing the strengths and weaknesses of the international order and setting the stage for a new era of great power competition. Before Trump, US policy toward India, Russia, and China was a careful balancing act, engaging China economically while hedging militarily, containing Russia, and building a strategic partnership with India. China and India had their own rivalries. Russia and China shared mutual suspicion, and India was moving closer to the West. The system was tense but stable, with little risk of a unified anti-US bloc. Trump's presidency shattered this equilibrium, introducing unpredictability and forcing each country to reassess its alliances. The old playbook of managing these relationships was suddenly obsolete. The world's three Eurasian giants now faced a new, uncertain reality. Trump's foreign policy was direct, bold, and often disruptive, shaking up the established order. With China, he launched a high-stakes trade war, transforming a strategic competitor into a determined economic adversary, escalating tensions worldwide. His approach to Russia was contradictory. Sanctions remained in place, but Trump sought personal rapport with Putin, leaving many allies confused and wary. With India, he prioritized trade disputes over partnership, ending preferential trade status and sparking economic friction, even as he publicly courted Modi. These moves upended diplomatic norms, making US foreign policy unpredictable, transactional, and difficult for allies to anticipate. India, Russia, and China now had to navigate a volatile America, sometimes a partner, sometimes an adversary, always uncertain. The old rules of global engagement no longer applied. Under mounting US pressure and shifting global dynamics, Russia and China drew even closer together, deepening both their economic and military ties as a deliberate counterweight to Washington's influence. Joint military drills, energy deals, and diplomatic coordination became more frequent, signaling a new era of strategic partnership. Meanwhile, India, facing ongoing and sometimes violent border clashes with China, leaned further into its partnership with the US and the Quad Alliance, seeking security and technological cooperation to counterbalance China's assertiveness. Yet, India couldn't simply abandon its long-standing defense ties with Russia, which remained a crucial supplier of military hardware and technology. Despite repeated US threats of sanctions, India continued to purchase advanced Russian weapons, like the S-400 missile system, asserting its strategic autonomy and independent foreign policy. India also remained active in multilateral forums like BRICS and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, engaging with both Russia and China on economic and security issues. This allowed India to balance carefully between East and West, maintaining relationships with both sides while protecting its own interests. The result wasn't the formation of a unified anti-US bloc, as India and China's deep-rooted rivalry and mistrust ran too deep for true alliance. Instead, a complex web of shifting alliances and interests emerged, with Russia and China acting as increasingly close partners, and India positioning itself as a balancing power, engaging with all sides but fully aligning with none. Trump's unpredictable policies and America-first approach fractured the old global order, replacing it with a more fluid, fragmented international landscape where alliances are constantly shifting and no single power dominates. Each nation hedged its bets, carefully weighing its options and partnerships, always wary of both Washington's intentions and the ambitions of each other, navigating a world that had become far more unpredictable and multipolar. The world responded to these shifts with new alliances and sharper divisions. Russia and China increasingly acted as a bloc at the UN, countering US initiatives. Groupings like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and BRICS gained prominence, offering alternatives to Western-led institutions. Meanwhile, Trump revived the Quad, uniting the US, India, Japan, and Australia to counter China's maritime ambitions. Europe, alienated by Trump's unilateralism, sought strategic autonomy, further fragmenting the West. The result, two emerging blocs, one continental led by Russia and China, one maritime led by the US, and a more multipolar, unpredictable world. Global order was no longer defined by a single dominant power. The Russia-China partnership now forms a powerful authoritarian axis, reshaping the global balance of power in ways not seen for decades. This alliance is directly challenging the US-led order across Eurasia, creating new tensions and uncertainties for the West. For the first time since the Cold War, the world is witnessing a confrontation between major powers that could reshape international relations for generations. The US now faces a peer competitor in China, whose economic and military rise is unprecedented in modern history. China is further strengthened by a resource-rich Russia, providing energy and strategic depth to this new bloc. Security flashpoints from the South China Sea to Ukraine are now interconnected, making Western strategy more complex and unpredictable than ever before. India, meanwhile, faces a two-front dilemma, a hostile China on one side and a Russia drifting ever closer toward Beijing, complicating New Delhi's security calculations. Economically, Trump's trade war triggered a global decoupling, accelerating the breakdown of old supply chains and alliances. The world is splitting into rival spheres of influence, with countries forced to reconsider their loyalties and economic ties. This division threatens decades of globalization, putting at risk the prosperity and stability many have taken for granted. Nations are increasingly forced to choose sides, as neutrality becomes harder to maintain in this polarized environment. The stakes are high. The risk of conflict and economic instability is rising, with potential consequences for people everywhere. The old institutions that once managed global rivalries now struggle to keep pace with these rapid changes and new alliances. The alliances forming today are drawing the battle lines for the century's great power contests, shaping the future of international politics. As the world enters this new era, the choices made now will determine the course of the century's great power rivalries and the fate of nations. The world now faces critical questions. Can the US and China avoid direct conflict, or are we inevitably headed for a new Cold War? The stakes are higher than ever, with both nations locked in a complex web of economic, technological, and military competition. Every diplomatic move is scrutinized, and even small missteps could have global consequences. The world watches anxiously, wondering if cooler heads will prevail or if rivalry will spiral out of control. India's balancing act is under increasing strain. Border clashes with China could push it further into the US camp, while Russia's growing subordination to China may force India to rethink its long-standing defense ties. India must weigh its security needs against its desire for strategic autonomy, all while managing a rapidly changing neighborhood. The choices India makes now could reshape the balance of power in Asia for decades to come. The Russia-China partnership, though strong on the surface, is not immune to friction. Historical mistrust, competing interests in Central Asia, and economic disparities could test its durability. Both countries benefit from their alliance, but deep-seated suspicions linger beneath the surface, and shifting global dynamics could expose fault lines. Western leaders watch for cracks, hoping to pull Russia away from China and weaken the emerging bloc. They strategize behind closed doors, seeking opportunities to exploit divisions and recalibrate alliances in their favor. The era of easy globalization and unquestioned US primacy is over. What remains is a messy, competitive, and dangerous new reality. Economic uncertainty, supply chain disruptions, and rising protectionism are now the norm, forcing nations to adapt to a world where cooperation is harder and risks are greater. Trump's policies accelerated these trends, exposing the raw competition beneath diplomatic niceties and challenging long-held assumptions about alliances and global leadership. His approach forced allies and rivals alike to rethink their strategies, leaving a legacy of unpredictability. The next generation of leaders must navigate this fractured world, manage rivalries, and build a new order for an age of division. Their decisions will shape the future. Will they find new ways to cooperate, or will they be trapped by the rivalries of the past? The answers remain uncertain, but the choices made today will echo for generations.